The internet is a place of endless information and unsettling mystery. I've spent years exploring the odd corners of human belief, but sometimes the strangest mysteries unfold right on our screens. This is the story of a 4chan thread that seemed to swallow people whole. It blurs the line between prank and something genuinely sinister. The story begins on 4chan, a site infamous for chaos and anonymity. One day, a thread appeared. "Don't reply to this thread." The post was stark. No images, no links, just a cryptic warning. Replying would have consequences. It didn't say what those consequences were. The warning just hung there, a digital dare. On 4chan, a dare is an invitation. Users mocked, joked, and replied defiantly. But as the thread grew, a sense of unease crept in. The bravado faded, replaced by curiosity and dread. This wasn't just another prank. The post was cold, detached, lacking the usual troll energy. It simply stated its rule and waited. That quiet confidence made it effective. Was it a game, a social experiment, or something else? The ambiguity was the hook. It drew people in and held them captive. The thread became a digital stage, and everyone wondered what the final act would be. It was a perfect storm of anonymity, curiosity, and fear. Why would someone post such a thing? Why would anyone reply? It speaks to our desire to test boundaries, to peek behind the curtain. The initial reactions were predictable: mockery, defiance. But soon the thread's tone shifted. The warning felt different, patient, almost predatory. The story was no longer about a post. It was about the people who couldn't look away, and that's where the legend began. The thread appeared on 4chan's IX board, home to the paranormal and conspiracies. The original post was clinical. "This is a closed loop. Replying will add you to it. Do not reply. You have been warned." No threats, no explanations, just a rule. People were instantly intrigued by its oddness. The first replies were dismissive or what? "You can't tell me what to do." Internet bravado took over. Dozens, then hundreds replied. But the thread refused to die. It stayed on the front page, a silent presence. Jokes and taunts gave way to nervous energy. The original poster never replied again. The silence was deafening. Then users noticed something strange. The thread glitched. Posts appeared out of order. The thread's ID number changed. Maybe it was just bugs, but in context it felt like the system was alive. The thread became an entity in the minds of those watching. It was no longer just a collection of posts. It was a digital haunting. People who hadn't replied felt uneasy, checking back obsessively. The fear was contagious, spreading from posters to lurkers. The thread was no longer a joke, it was a digital haunting in progress. The more people watched, the more the anxiety grew. The thread's power was in its silence. It became a focal point for collective dread. The original warning echoed, "Do not reply." But the urge to break the rule was irresistible. The thread's legend was growing and nobody knew where it would end. It was a horror movie you couldn't stop watching. The digital void was staring back, and everyone felt its pull. Panic set in when users began to vanish. An active poster suddenly went silent, not just in the thread but across the site. Others checked their post history. Nothing. It was as if they'd been wiped clean. At first, people assumed bans or technical glitches, but then it happened again and again. A pattern emerged. Users who replied would disappear. The evidence was flimsy but compelling to those caught up in the moment. Users pointed to specific replies. "Look at this poster, now try to find them elsewhere." Gone. Some searched archives, claiming entire post histories vanished. Skeptics argued 4chan is anonymous. People change IPs, clear cookies, disappear all the time. But the belief in the vanishings grew stronger. The narrative fit the original warning. The consequence was erasure. Some claimed to have contacted vanished users on Discord or email, only to find them offline everywhere. These second-hand accounts added a new layer of terror. Was it a hoax, coincidence, or something else? The evidence against the vanishings was logical, but the emotional evidence, the shared fear, was overwhelming. For those in the thread, the disappearances felt real. They watched fellow users get picked off one by one. The feeling, whether true or not, was powerful enough to create a legend. The thread's warning was coming true, at least in the minds of those who believed. And that belief was all it took. The vanishings became the heart of the story. The vanishings fueled a new theory. The thread was cursed. It was no longer just a web page. It was a trap, a piece of haunted code. Some speculated the original poster embedded a malicious script, scraping IPs or installing malware on anyone who replied. The thread itself was the curse. This theory blended supernatural fears with real-world anxieties about privacy and hacking. The code didn't just steal your data, it stole you. Others thought it was an alternate reality game, or ARG. The minimalist post was the hook, the vanishings the plot. People dug into the source code, searched for hidden messages, desperate to find the puppet master. But if it was a game, it had no solution. No one claimed responsibility. The lack of resolution only deepened the mystery. The cursed thread and ARG theories were two sides of the same coin. One supernatural, one man-made. Both agreed. Replying was dangerous. It was stepping into a story you couldn't control. And that was the most frightening part. The thread became a digital legend, one you entered at your own risk. The real power of the story was psychological. Fear spread in a feedback loop. One person's anxiety validated another's. The thread became a mirror for collective dread. Anonymity amplified the paranoia. Every poster could be a victim, every lurker the next to vanish. The lack of identity made fear contagious. The original post was a perfect negative suggestion. Don't reply. That command made replying irresistible, a classic case of ironic process theory. The more you tried not to think about it, the more it dominated your mind. The thread was a psychological trap, using our own minds against us. Belief in the curse was a way to make sense of chaos. A curse has rules, a narrative, order in disorder. Ascribing supernatural qualities gave people a sense of understanding, even if it was based on fear. The human mind craves patterns, and the thread provided a dark, compelling one. It wasn't about evidence, it was about the feeling. The legend grew because it tapped into something primal. The fear was real, even if the threat wasn't. The story didn't stay on 4chan. It spread across Reddit, Twitter, YouTube. With each retelling, the legend grew, details exaggerated, new evidence invented. It became a modern ghost story, told around the digital campfire. The fear spread to people who'd never seen the original thread. The legend was more powerful than the event itself. People who'd never used 4chan felt a chill at anonymous posts. The story planted a seed of doubt, made the digital world feel less safe. The panic was real, even if the vanishings weren't. People lost sleep, felt watched, experienced genuine anxiety. The thread was a masterclass in online horror, plausible, immediate, and deeply unsettling. Its legacy was a culture of online fear. It taught users to be suspicious, wary, but it also fostered a sense of dread, made the internet feel actively hostile. The fear lingered long after the thread was archived. For some, the warning, "Don't reply," never faded. The story became a permanent part of digital folklore. The story hit women especially hard. For many, the threat of the cursed thread echoed real experiences of online harassment and stalking. The idea of being digitally vanished felt less like fantasy, more like an extension of everyday threats. The anonymous poster became a stand-in for every troll or stalker. Women described a heightened sense of vulnerability. Some stopped posting in anonymous forums altogether. The story was a stark reminder. Anonymity isn't always a shield. For those often targeted, it can empower aggressors. The legend resonated because it felt so horribly plausible. When you separate fact from folklore, the story collapses. A thread titled "Don't Reply" existed. People replied. That's where certainty ends. No verifiable evidence of vanishings exists, no definitive proof, just stories. Technical glitches are common on 4chan, but the folklore is what endures. Digital legends operate on belief, not proof. Once an idea takes hold, it becomes self-perpetuating. Ambiguous events are interpreted through the lens of the story. The internet accelerates this process. Stories spread in hours, echo chambers amplify fear. The lack of evidence makes the legend more enduring. It can't be debunked, and doubt lingers. The story doesn't ask you to believe in ghosts, just that the digital world is stranger than it seems, and for many that's not a hard leap to make. The "Don't Reply" thread still resonates because our digital lives are more vulnerable than ever. The idea of digital erasure is a modern ghost story. The thread's lesson is about internet safety and psychological impact. It reminds us to be mindful, skeptical, and to protect our peace of mind. The legend lives on in the stories we tell, a warning about the void. It speaks to our fear of the unknown, of being watched, of disappearing. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is simply not reply. And that's how the thread became immortal.